Freedom and destiny. A blend of the four forms of love requires both self-assertion and an affirmation of the other person. It also requires an assertion of one's freedom and a confrontation with one's destiny. Healthy individuals are able both to assume their freedom and to face their destiny. Freedom defined. In an early definition, May said that freedom is the individual's capacity to know that he is the determined one. The word determined in this definition is synonymous with what May would later call destiny. Freedom, then, comes from an understanding of our destiny, an understanding that death is a possibility at any moment, that we are male or female, that we have inherent weaknesses, that early childhood experiences dispose us towards certain patterns of behavior. Freedom is the possibility of changing, although we may not know what those changes might be. Freedom entails being able to harbor different possibilities in one's mind even though it is not clear at the moment which way one must act. This condition often leads to increases in anxiety, but it is normal anxiety, the kind that healthy people welcome and are able to manage. Forms of freedom. May recognize two forms of freedom: freedom of doing and freedom of being. The first he called existential freedom, the latter, essential freedom. Existential freedom. Existential freedom should not be identified with existential philosophy. It is the freedom of action, the freedom of doing. Most middle-class adult Americans enjoy large measures of existential freedom. They are free to travel across state lines, to choose their associates, to vote for their representatives in government, and so on. On a more trivial scale, they are free to push their shopping carts through a supermarket and select from among thousands of items. Existential freedom, then, is the freedom to act on the choices that one makes. Essential freedom. Freedom to act, to move around does not ensure essential freedom, that is, freedom of being. In fact, existential freedom often makes essential freedom more difficult. For example, prisoners and inmates in concentration camps often speak enthusiastically of their inner freedom, despite experiencing very limited existential freedom. Thus, physical confinement, or the denial of liberty, seems to allow people to face their destiny and to gain their freedom of being. In 1981, May asked, "Do we get to essential freedom only when our everyday existence is interrupted?" May's own answer was no. One need not be imprisoned to attain essential freedom, that is, freedom of being. Destiny itself is our prison, our concentration camp that allows us to be less concerned with freedom of doing and more concerned with essential freedom. Rollo May wrote, "Does not the engaging of our destiny, which is the design of our life, hedge us about with the confinement, the sobriety, indeed, often the cruelty, which forces us to look beyond the limits of day-to-day action? Is not the inescapable fact of death the concentration camp of us all? Is not the fact that life is a joy and a bondage at the same time enough to drive us to consider the deeper aspect of being? What is destiny?" May defined destiny as the design of the universe speaking through the design of each one of us. Our ultimate destiny is death, but on a lesser scale our destiny includes other biological properties such as intelligence, gender, size, and strength, and genetic predisposition towards certain illnesses. In addition, psychological and cultural factors contribute to our destiny. Destiny does not mean preordained or foredoomed. It is our destination, our terminus, our goal. Within the boundaries of our destiny, we have the power to choose. And this power allows us to confront and challenge our destiny. It does not, however, permit any change we wish. We cannot be successful at any job, conquer any illness, enjoy a fulfilling relationship with any person. We cannot erase our destiny, but we can choose how we shall respond, how we shall live out our talents which confront us. May suggested that freedom and destiny, like love-hate or life-death, are not antithetical but rather a normal paradox of life. The paradox is that freedom owes its vitality to destiny, and destiny owes its significance to freedom. Freedom and destiny are thus inexorably intertwined, one cannot exist without the other. Freedom without destiny is unruly license. Ironically, license leads to destiny is our concentration camp that paradoxically defines our essential freedom, anarchy, and the ultimate destruction of freedom. Without destiny, then, we have no freedom, but without freedom our destiny is meaningless. Freedom and destiny give birth to each other. As we challenge our destiny, we gain freedom, and as we achieve freedom, we push at the boundaries of destiny. Philip's destiny. When Philip, the architect immobilized by his relationship with Nicole, first sought Rollo May as his therapist, he was paralyzed with inaction because he had refused to accept his destiny. He saw no connection between his adult pattern of relating to women and his childhood strategy of getting along in an unpredictable and crazy world. His destiny, however, was not fixed by those early experiences. Philip, like other people, had the freedom to change his destiny, but first he had to recognize his biological, social, and psychological limitations, and then he had to possess the courage to make choices within those limitations. Philip lacked both the understanding and the courage to confront his destiny. Up to the point of seeking therapy, he had tried to compensate for his destiny, to consciously deny it. He had been searching for someone who would make up for his having been born into an unwelcoming world consisting of a disturbed mother and a schizophrenic sister, a destiny that he did not in the slightest choose. Philip's denial of his destiny left him resentful and confused. His inability or unwillingness to face his destiny robbed him of personal freedom and kept him tied to his mother. Philip treated his wives and Nicole in the same way that earlier had proven successful with his mother and sister. He could not dare express his anger to women, but instead he adopted a charming though somewhat possessive and protective attitude toward them. May insisted that the freedom of each of us is in proportion to the degree with which we confront and live in relation to our destiny, p. 89. After several weeks of psychotherapy, Philip was able to stop blaming his mother for not doing what he thought she should have done. When he began to see the positive things she did for him, he began to change his attitude toward her. The objective facts of his childhood had not changed, but his subjective perceptions had. As Philip came to terms with his destiny, he began to be able to express his anger, to feel less trapped in his relationship with Nicole, and to become more aware of his possibilities. In other words, he gained his freedom of being.